So I'll answer question 2 first. So in terms of a Cintiq, or honestly any tablet, I would highly recommend getting one because it is better over the keyboard and mouse, or technically over the mouse, because I still use the keyboard for all the other shortcuts. So I have my keyboard here. I have a wireless keyboard right there on my desk, and then I have my Cintiq here. So I'm essentially just replacing my mouse. Now, the reason why a tablet is better than a mouse is ergonomics. That's the big one. A mouse, because your hand is twisted this way, it actually puts strain into your wrist, and just the repetitive clicking and middle mouse clicking adds a lot of strain to your hand. And it doesn't take long before you might start getting some repetitive strain injury of some sort. When I started animating, I was animating for like 3 or 4 months as I was a student before I started getting some really serious pain in my wrists from animating all the time. So I switched to a pen. And the thing with a pen is your hand rests at a much more neutral position, which is much more comfortable. And then when you're using the buttons, you're either just tapping or you're using your thumb here instead of your fingers. And your thumb is much less likely to get repetitive strain injury because it's got a big muscle here, right there, that helps it move. Whereas all the other fingers, there's no muscles in your fingers. All your muscles are in your arm right here. And you can see if I move my fingers, let's see if I can get, you can see it right there. All the tendons moving through from the fingers down into the wrist, into the muscles right there. And you can see it even on the back here. How all the muscles here are flexing. That's what's controlling your fingers. Your thumb, if I do this, you can see very little motion here. You just get a little bit right there, and only if I really flex my thumb. But if I'm doing this, which is all you're doing when you're holding the pen, nothing. So much healthier on the wrist. Alternatively, you could use a vertical mouse, which is a mouse that you just hold like this. That's going to be much better for your wrist in the long term. But the thing with the pen is that additionally, you can also draw, and you can do little doodles and whatnot. Doesn't mean you have to be able to draw really well. I don't draw very well, but you can at least use that to track arcs, all sorts of things. So I highly recommend a pen. Now, do you need a Cintiq? No. A Cintiq is a huge investment. I think they're like, well, they're a few $1,000s. Now, after many, many, many years of being an animator, I finally upgraded to a Cintiq a few years ago. But for most of my career, I was using an old Intuos 3 that I had when I was a teenager. And it worked great. It wasn't even one of the fancy new Intuoses. It was just an old Intuos. And I still have it. It's actually right under my desk there. And that's all you need. A small tablet. Don't need anything super expensive. It's really for the wrist more than anything. And honestly, in many ways, I actually prefer my tablet over my Cintiq. Because with a Cintiq, your hand is over the screen. You're drawing on the screen, which is great because it feels more like paper in that sense. But your hand literally gets in the way. It's right there. So as you're animating, you kind of keep having to move your hand out of the way. You open menus and your arm's in the way. With the tablet, because you're still looking at your screen, but your hand is down here, it's like using a mouse. And once you get used to that little bit of an offset of drawing while looking up, it's super intuitive. Now, the hard part is getting used to it. What I ended up doing when I was a student is I just had such a hard time getting used to the tablet. I unplugged my mouse, went to the opposite end of the house, put it in a drawer at the bottom of the drawer under a whole bunch of things, and forced myself to use only the tablet for everything for 2 weeks. By the end of those 2 weeks, I got my mouse back because it's hard to play games without a mouse. And honestly, for nearly everything on my computer, I just kept using the tablet because it was just much more comfortable. So once you kind of get over that hurdle, I actually find the tablet is way, way easier.